Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm glad to see so many of you here. I hope you're in the right place. We're here to discuss creating and supporting diversity in higher education. And I'll start off by just introducing myself, since you'll see me a lot this morning, I think. So I'm Ada Meloy, and I am the General Counsel of the American Council on Education, also known as ACE. And if you want information about that, I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. But as far as my background, I have been in higher ed law for 35 years, and I spent about 28 years advising and representing New York University before coming to ACE 6 years ago. And I'm happy to say that in all those years at NYU, I was never summoned to come to the Department of Justice, but I'm so pleased to have been invited to talk about this important topic today. So we have some very distinguished people who are really the cast here. I'm simply the moderator, but I want to briefly introduce them. First, we're going to hear from Martha Cantor, who has served as the Undersecretary of Education since 2009. She oversees policies, programs, and activities related to post-secondary, adult, and career technical education, federal student aid, and 6 White House education initiatives. She is charged with planning and policy to implement President Obama's goal for the U.S. to have the best educated, most competitive workforce in the world by 2020. Undersecretary Cantor and her team are focused on improving college access, affordability, quality and completion, and implementing the American Graduation Initiative. And I must say, we at ACE support all of those wonderful goals. Previously, for 16 years, Dr. Cantor served as president and chancellor of the Foothill De Anza Community College District in California, serving more than 45,000 students. Undersecretary Cantor holds a doctorate in organization and leadership from the University of San Francisco, a master's from Harvard, and a bachelor's from Brandeis. I welcome you, Undersecretary Cantor.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Ada, for the kind introduction. I'm excited to be here today to provide a few brief opening remarks before the panel discussion begins. I'm particularly pleased to participate today alongside my administration colleagues, Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Catherine Lhamon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Jocelyn Samuels, and Designated General Counsel of the U.S. Department of Education, Phil Rosenfeld. And I'm especially grateful to Syracuse University Chancellor Nancy Cantor and Oberlin College President Marvin Krislov for traveling to Washington today to join us in this important conversation. As many of you know, I spend a great deal of time speaking with higher education leaders across the country about the need to increase college access and completion for all students, and especially those from historically disadvantaged groups. And all across the country, I see college and university leaders like Nancy and Marvin who are working hard each and every day to ensure that the doors of higher education remain wide open for students from all different backgrounds and cultures. These presidents and their teams are building the pipeline programs with students as early as elementary school, providing parents with important information to help prepare their students for college, and constantly working to make college more affordable, higher value, and better outcomes for every student, and especially for families that have the least means or don't think college is in their realm. Why do these leaders do all of this? First and foremost, I believe that the vast majority of our college and university presidents are committed to expanding educational opportunity in this country. They understand that President Obama's goal of being the world leader in college completion by 2020 is not just political rhetoric. It is a moral, social, economic, and democratic imperative for our country. They understand that America simply cannot compete as a world leader, both in terms of our economic competitiveness and the kind of participation we'd like to see for our country in civic life in our communities, without increasing the number of adults with college degrees. Meeting the President's goal will, of course, require colleges and universities to double down on our efforts to increase access. In August, President Obama outlined an ambitious new agenda to combat rising college costs, keep college affordable, and improve value for students through 3 key steps. First, he called on all of us together to establish a college rating system to illustrate the colleges across the country that offer the best value. This will empower students and families from all kinds of backgrounds to make the best choices to meet their needs. The department will develop these ratings with significant input from students and parents, from state leaders, college presidents, and others, all constituencies, and in a way that puts a fundamental premium on measuring value while ensuring access for those with economic or other disadvantages. We're going to encourage that, not discourage it. Second, President Obama seeks to spark innovation and competition by shining a spotlight on college performance, highlighting the colleges that are getting good results, and showing others how they can do better in terms of encouraging student success without sacrificing educational quality. And third, because we know that too many students are struggling to repay their debt today, the President is committed to ensuring that students who need it have access to the pay-as-you-earn plan that caps student loan payments at 10% of income. While these proposals are bold, they are achievable. In fact, many of the reforms that the President has laid out are built on innovative efforts already underway, including those of university systems like those here today and campuses across the country. But there's another motivating factor behind these actions. The value and benefits conferred to students when they attend an institution with significant diversity are enormous. There has been much discussion of the educational benefits of diversity as courts and judges have examined the issue of race in admissions, but these benefits are not just legal jargon. Chancellor Cantor and President Krislov know too well that students at diverse institutions acquire innumerable advantages in terms of their ability to communicate and collaborate with people from different backgrounds, the depth of their understanding of current social and political challenges, and their comfort with exploring new ideas and becoming the innovative thinkers to drive our country forward. Simply put, colleges and universities recognize that students must experience diversity to be prepared for student success in today's global economy once they get into the door of higher education. For these reasons, the Obama administration enthusiastically supports institutions in their efforts to create diversity on campus. We do not see diversity as separate and apart from our higher education agenda. Instead, we see diversity as inextricably tied to our overall goal of ensuring more of America's students graduate from college equipped with all of the skills, knowledge, and abilities needed to compete on a global scale and work effectively in our communities across America. Creating and supporting diversity in higher education, which is the focus of today's discussion, is not an easy task. I think we all know that. Our institutions of higher education must have several tools at their disposal, including the lawful consideration of race in admissions, to create the type of diversity they know will best prepare students for success after graduation. I, along with Secretary Duncan, was pleased that the Supreme Court's opinion in Fisher versus the University of Texas at Austin preserved the ability of colleges and universities to use race when legally permissible, to create a diverse student body. Admissions, however, is only one part of the diversity story. For the educational benefits of diversity to be fully realized and the opportunities of higher education to be attained by all students, institutions must think creatively and broadly about the supports that students need while on campus. It isn't enough to just admit classes of students with different backgrounds. Colleges and universities have got to take affirmative steps to provide space and time for students to learn from one another and to ensure that students of historic disadvantage are not isolated in ways that prevent successful integration into the school community. I look forward to hearing from our panelists today. During this important and timely discussion, I've seen firsthand the value of creating and supporting diversity on campus, and the invaluable benefits that flow from diversity. I'm excited for you to hear from our higher education leaders about their own experiences in creating and supporting diversity on their campuses, and I look forward to continuing this work with my colleagues in the higher education community and my colleagues at the Department of Education and the Department of Justice. Thank you again for inviting me to participate in today's important discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. Next, I would like to introduce another speaker, and this is Phil Rosenfeld. He's the Designated General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel for the Program Service at the Department of Education. Since 2005, he has overseen nearly all legal services to the department. Previously, he served as the Assistant General Counsel for Elementary, Secondary, Adult, and Vocational Education for 25 years. He has worked as an attorney at the Department of Education and its predecessor, HEW, since 1971. Some of us do remember that the Department of Education was elevated to cabinet level in 1980. Mr. Rosenfeld received his BS degree from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, his JD from Columbia, and his LLM from New York University School of Law in 1971, when I was also at that law school, so perhaps we knew each other. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I also want to say that when I was at NYU, there was no reason to call the Justice Department either. So it was a great time at NYU, and I'm sure we spent time together even though we didn't know it. But I want to thank my colleagues in the Office for Civil Rights, in particular our new Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Catherine Lhamon, who has been a terrific addition to the team, as well as our colleagues in the Civil Rights Division here at the Department of Justice, and Acting Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Jocelyn Samuels, who has always been a great colleague and teammate. And we appreciate your putting this event together this morning. And I want to thank the staffs at the department, in the Office of General Counsel, the Office of Civil Rights, and of course our colleagues at Justice, for the hard and dedicated work on equity and diversity over all these years and the guidance that we will be talking about today. I'm also honored to follow Martha Cantor to speak because for many years Martha has been a leader in speaking and taking actions to support diversity and equity. And in every day that I work with Martha, she is always very sensitive to these issues and always comes up with great ideas for taking these issues forward. As Anna mentioned in her introduction, I've been at the Department of Education and its predecessor, HEW, for more than a few years. It's actually 42 years total. And if you will, remember that number for a little while. My interest in equity and the value of diversity go back further than my time starting at HEW. As a child of 6, I became interested in baseball, just like my dad. He was a fan of the New York Yankees, who were the perennial winners of that era. I became incredibly attracted to a team that was the classic underdog, the Brooklyn Dodgers, a team that broke the color barrier a few years before the Supreme Court learned that it should. Number 42, for my 42 years, but also a more important number on the back of Jackie Robinson, is a symbol. He overcame the taunts of other teams and fans and became one of the best players ever. The Dodgers took a chance on diversity, and its impact was felt far beyond the baseball fields and the considerable success that the Dodgers had. That always had a great impact on my thinking. Breaking through stereotypes, supporting diversity have been a major influence throughout my life. My first case as a lawyer at HEW was a desegregation case in Alabama in a very poor district. And I went to court representing the United States for HEW, I was a real rookie in baseball terms and in legal terms, and I was with a very seasoned veteran Department of Justice lawyer. And the odds were against us in that courtroom that day, but magically almost, we successfully argued a key motion leading to a significant order to desegregate the schools. On the same trip, I visited the schools, and I was amazed at the difference. The schools for African American students had outhouses for bathrooms, holes in the roof. The walls were hardly standing. And on the other side of town, the white students had newer and better facilities. Student achievement, though, throughout that district was at an all-time low. We met with the school superintendent to talk about the lack of comparability. He laid his large gun holster down on the table in front of us and said, "What can I do for you, feds?" Despite considerable resistance, we held firm that comparability had to be met, the schools had to be desegregated, and better services needed to be provided for all students. When I visited the schools the next year, the superintendent had been fired, newer buildings were provided and shared with white and African American students, and the level of educational achievement had already improved for all students. There was no going back. And I learned at that time that the law could be a powerful instrument to promote diversity and improve the lives of all students. Over the years, we've had a number of advances, we've had a number of struggles, we've had some setbacks to help desegregate schools and expand economic and educational opportunity. And I've always been proud of the work at the federal level to support those aims and to have some success. As the Supreme Court explained in the Grutter case, higher education must be inclusive of talented and qualified individuals of every race and ethnicity so that all members of our heterogeneous society may participate in the educational institutions that provide the training and education necessary to succeed in America. Those are magic words for me. As research and the courts have repeatedly acknowledged, diverse educational environments help to prepare students to succeed in our increasingly diverse workforce, society, and world. That's why the Department of Education and our partners at Department of Justice have been long fighting for this and have today issued joint guidance that we're going to be talking about. To further this work, we feel that the documents that we're producing today, the questions and answers related to the Supreme Court decision in the Fisher case, will help universities and other institutions across the nation to increase diversity. The Fisher decision reaffirmed 35 years of precedent upholding the compelling interest in educational diversity in higher education. As these question and answers note, the Fisher decision reinforced the Supreme Court's earlier rulings that the use of race in carefully designed admission policies must be narrowly tailored to advance the compelling interest in educational diversity. The Q's and A's explain unequivocally that the Fisher decision did not invalidate the use of race in admission decisions, but rather the Fisher court held that the Constitution permits the use of race if race is considered as one of a number of factors in the context of an individualized applicant review process, and when workable race-neutral alternatives would not suffice to meet the goals of achieving educational diversity. With this guidance, we encourage our colleagues at colleges and universities throughout the land to continue to lawfully pursue the benefits of educational diversity, which, as I've known for all of my years, is very, very important. As noted in these questions and answers, we continue to rely on the guidance we issued in 2011, the joint guidance from the two departments on voluntary use of race to achieve diversity in both post-secondary education and elementary and secondary. And it's our hope that today's questions and answers and the 2011 document will be helpful and useful to colleges to pursue these very important goals. We in the federal government will do all we can to continue to be partners with our state, local institutions of higher education, as well as elementary and secondary schools. Our guidance talks about our availability to provide technical assistance and help all we can. We stand ready to serve as a resource to any college or university that seeks assistance in pursuing diversity in a lawful manner. We look forward to today's ongoing conversation and a chance to learn alongside you as we continue to explore practical and workable solutions for achieving student body diversity. As I look back on my 42 years of public service, I think about old 42, Jackie Robinson, as he pranced around the bases and taunted the other opponents who were taunting him for his race. He never let it bother him. He was an inspiration to me that you don't accept stereotypes, you push out so that there is diversity. I also have the honor of serving on the Holocaust Council for the department, and we study the effects when stereotypes really can be very damaging. And all of that background brings me here today, and it's an honor and a privilege for us to issue the guidance today and to work with you going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phil. And now I will move down to the panel, and we will commence that part of our presentation. So we're here today to talk about the meaning of Fisher versus the University of Texas. As you all know, it was issued on that long-awaited Monday, June 24th, and it was 7-1. That was the only surprise I would admit to in my many media calls asking about the decision. It's a mere 13-page majority opinion, and it cites Grutter on 8 of those pages and Bakke on 5 of them. So how hard can it be to interpret and understand? Well, ACE and 36 of our member associations tried to show the world what we thought Grutter meant when we published in national media a full-page statement that diversity in higher education remains an essential national priority. And we're very pleased to be here today to hear from our panelists more about this. So I'll start by briefly introducing each of them. To my immediate left is Nancy Cantor, who served as Chancellor of Syracuse University since 2004. She is a noted higher education leader and among many other posts has served as Chair of the Board of the American Council on Education. Prior to her appointment at Syracuse, Dr. Cantor served as Chancellor of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and as Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of Michigan. While at Michigan, she was closely involved in the university's defense in the Grutter and Gratz cases decided by the Supreme Court in 2003. Chancellor Cantor also served as Chair of the Department of Psychology at Princeton. She holds a BA from Sarah Lawrence College and a PhD in psychology from Stanford. And in January, she will move to New Jersey to become the Chancellor of Rutgers Newark. Seated to her left is Marvin Krislov, who became president of Oberlin College in 2007. He came to Oberlin from the University of Michigan, where he had been vice president and general counsel. Dr. Krislov led Michigan's legal defense of its admission policies, resulting in the Grutter decision recognizing the importance of student body diversity. Previously, Marvin was serving as acting solicitor in the U.S. Department of Labor and was primary legal advisor to the Secretary of Labor supervising Labor Department legal operations. He served in the Office of Counsel to the President and in the criminal section of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, so you're coming home a little bit today. Marvin received a bachelor's degree from Yale. Then, as a Rhodes Scholar, he earned a master's degree from Oxford's Magdalen College, and he got his law degree at Yale. To Marvin's left, we have, and let me make sure I'm correct on this, Catherine Lhamon.
That's right.
Yes, who is the Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights at the Department of Education. Previously, Ms. Lhamon served as Director of Impact Litigation at Public Counsel, the nation's largest pro bono law firm. She practiced for a decade at the ACLU in Southern California. And before then, she was a teaching fellow and supervising attorney in the appellate litigation program at Georgetown Law School. After clerking on the Ninth Circuit, she received her JD from Yale and graduated from Amherst College. And finally, we're honored to have Jocelyn Samuels, who is the Acting Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the Department of Justice. Previously, Ms. Samuels was the Vice President for Education and Employment at the National Women's Law Center, where her work focused on promoting enforcement of Titles 7 and 9. She also served as labor counsel to Senator Edward Kennedy as ranking member and chair of the Senate Health Committee, and as a senior policy attorney at the EEOC. Ms. Samuels also clerked on the Ninth Circuit after receiving her law degree from Columbia, and she's a graduate of Middlebury College. So I'm very pleased to have such distinguished folks on our panel, and I will start the questioning with our colleagues from Justice and the Education Department and ask them, what did the court really say and not say in Fisher? Who would like to go first?
I'm happy to address that question, but let me first say I'm so delighted to be here with my colleagues on the panel and from the Department of Education. I'd like to give a particular shout out to my colleagues in the Educational Opportunities section at the Civil Rights Division who do extraordinary work on diversity and other issues of educational equity. And I'm really pleased to see all of you. I really am looking forward to working with all of you to achieve the goals that I know we all share, really promoting equality of opportunity in education broadly, and as most relevant today, promoting diversity on our nation's campuses. I think, as Phil mentioned in his remarks and as Ada said in her summary about the case, Fisher is a critical decision because it recognizes that principles of diversity and university and college efforts to achieve diversity on campus are not only a compelling interest in the words of the law and in the application of the strict scrutiny standard, but also produce extraordinary educational benefits. They break down racial stereotypes. Diversity on campus exposes students to new perspectives. It enriches classroom discussion. And it's also critical for success in the larger world. And this is something that the Department of Justice, in its brief before the Supreme Court, in the Fisher case, made clear that diversity on campus is a critical component of ensuring the diversity that America needs in order not only to be able to compete in the world at large, but also to strengthen our government functions, our business functions, and the way in which we interact with people across the globe in this